This is Cougar football.
Joe, you've got this nice new football operations building, but is it not going to feel complete until there's an Apple Cup trophy up on the second floor?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of our goals every year. I mean, we want to win every game, but especially this one. And I think that'd be a great end of this year and get some momentum going into the offseason, but we definitely want to get that trophy and bring it in here.
What can a win in the last game do for a team heading into winter?
I think it provides like huge momentum going into the offseason. I mean, 2 years ago, I always reference this, is 2 years ago we won that Apple Cup, and it kind of just launched us into a great offseason. I think it just gives you great momentum going into spring ball and into offseason workouts. And we saw it last year, how we doubled wins after we won that Apple Cup.
Could you describe the nature of the rivalry a little bit? Is it friendly? Do you not like those guys?
I mean, it's for Washington kids, they definitely understand it a little bit more. But I mean, it's definitely not friendly, but it's just like every other rivalry in college football, I think.
You're going to go up against one of the nation's sack leaders, pretty good defensive end. What have you seen out of Kikaha?
I actually haven't watched too much film up to this point. We're going to kind of dive into it today, but I've seen some of their games, just bits and pieces, watching it as a fan. And obviously he's a talented player, and their defense as a whole is pretty solid. And it'll be a great task and some good competition out there.
Thanks.
You mentioned how you've watched some of their games as a fan. Is it basically whoever's playing UW, that's the team you're going for?
Definitely. I'm sure that they're the exact same way. I think that's just how college football works. You're always kind of just rooting for the team that's playing your rival, but that's kind of how the general feel is normally, and I think that everyone across the country will probably feel the same.
When did you start to realize what a big deal this was first day on campus, or when did it kind of really sink in?
Probably the whole time I was growing up. I mean, every time I went to watch an Apple Cup, I had siblings that wanted UW to win or wanted WSU to win. My family generally WSU, so I've kind of grown up with it, and I know how it is and what to expect.
Does it add a little extra to your college football career knowing that you get to participate in this as opposed to staying at Montana or going out of state?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely means more to somebody playing in-state. I mean, California guys on our team probably feel a little more motivated when we're playing teams that they grew up hating, but I think that teams or kids growing up in Washington definitely have a little more to gain by winning this game.
Hey Joe, when you were your first year at Washington State, your first Apple Cup, were you struck by the intensity in the locker room or anything like that?
There's not too much of a different feel. I mean, we try to treat every game the same and keep everything routine, but I think that everyone, if they ask themselves deep down, that they're a little more intense when it comes to the rivalry game, and I noticed that a little bit last year.
The upperclassmen don't kind of do anything to impress upon the young out-of-state kids the importance of this one or anything?
Not really. I mean, I think that you just kind of have to experience it, and everyone will know after the first time playing in this game what it's all about and what it's like to play a true rival.
What is the experience like? I mean, on the field, is there more kind of tension? Or?
It might be a little more chippy than most games, but I mean, generally it for the most part it's like any other game. But your mentality, you want to win, maybe just a little bit more. I mean, we want to win every game, but this one's a little bit special to us.
Do you guys have to worry about cutting down the penalties because everyone's so amped up and it is a rivalry game? You don't really like those guys over there?
Yeah, I mean, we try to stay disciplined in each and every game, but I mean, sometimes tempers will flare, and definitely in this game a little bit more than others. So you got to watch that and make sure that you're keeping everything within the rules.
As someone who's pretty close to Connor, what's it going to be like for you to watch him go out there on senior night, get out on the field with his family?
It's going to be an emotional one because I know how badly he wants to be playing in this game and how bad he wants to win, and it's just going to suck not having him out there, but it's going to be a good moment at the same time because he had a great career here. Joe,
is the atmosphere a little unique in that both offenses are kind of fighting the crowd?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to try to do our best, but I'm sorry. Say the question again.
Well, just it's the only game. It's probably the game where you're going to have the biggest contingent of visiting fans in Martin Stadium. I mean, what's that like?
I mean, I think that for the most part, it'll be a higher majority of WSU fans, but I think for the most part we work on communication each and every week, especially when we have away games. So I mean, it won't affect us too much.
Joe, kind of on that note though, you saw in 2012, how much does it help that this game is in Pullman though for you guys? You were down in that game, you came back and won.
The crowd is a huge factor. I mean, it's always great to have your home fans behind you and playing in your own place. I mean, we'll feed off their energy, and I know that they'll have a great atmosphere for us.
The Huskies already clinched the bowl game. Do you feel like you maybe have a little bit more to play for since maybe in essence this is your bowl game this season? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's the last game of the year, and we want to set a tone for going into the off season and definitely just get a win against our rivals. But it's a little bit more than every other game because it's our last one, and we want to set a tone for a great off season.
You're someone who won in this rivalry, then lost in this rivalry. Can you describe the difference in both scenarios and how you guys reacted to that?
The first time I was here, I actually didn't get a play in it. I had to sit out that year, but I just know that how much it can help you going into an off season and how much it means to everyone on the team. Everyone wants to get a win. And last year, I just know that left us with a sour taste in our mouth, just knowing that we lost to our rivals and they had that to hang over our head for a whole year.
You guys are going to have some recruits in, excuse me, some recruits in to visit this weekend. Is that like one of the top recruiting ways to get guys into Wazoo is to have them witness firsthand a win in the Apple Cup?
It's definitely a huge factor. I mean, recruits want to see a winning team, and we always try to put on a good show for any week that we have recruits in. But you definitely want to be able to tell them that you're the best team in the state, and this gives us a chance to prove it.
Joe, did you go to any Apple Cups growing up?
I went to a few as children, as I was a child, but for the most part, I watched them at home, and we always had big old parties with the family, and there's definitely some yelling going on.
I remember last year after the game, Bill Monroe kind of took offense to the way some of the UW players were handling the win. Do you remember anything that was going on the field after the game last year?
I really don't. I mean, for me, myself, I know that I just got off the field once the game was over. I didn't want to lose that game, and I didn't want to be in there after we lost it. So I don't really remember anything specifically.
Growing up or even playing it, do you have a specific Apple Cup memory or something that sticks out in your mind that brings up the importance of this week?
Some of the memories that stick out in my mind are all the old Apple Cup highlights where there's just 6 inches of snow on the field and everyone's just battling, and I kind of want to have some snow this week and hopefully have one of those classic games like that.
Any questions on the line for Joe Dahl?
Yeah, Joe, Bud Withers here from the Seattle Times. You mentioned the game 2 years ago. Were you in the stands or on the sidelines?
I was in the stands.
What do you remember about Pole's interception?
I remember how loud it was in the stadium at that point. I mean, just like I said earlier, the fans will erupt when there's a good play in this game, and I just remember how big that was for us and how close he got to almost returning that for a touchdown and ending the game right there. But I just remember how electric the fans were at that point.
I suppose, I mean, it was even different from like a long pass play or a long run. I mean, it was obviously a pretty unusual play.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have just been a crazy feeling.
Yeah, you definitely don't see a D tackle or get a ball and run it for 80 yards or however long it was, and just the whole time the whole fans are screaming, and that was definitely just a unique play, and it was pretty close to ending the game.
And also on Coach Leach, I mean, in terms of how he approaches the rivalry, as you said, you guys kind of approach each game the same. He doesn't necessarily seem like a guy who necessarily gets into the rivalry aspect of it. How would you characterize his approach?
His approach is the same as anything else. I mean, we always just try to focus on ourselves, and nothing's about the opponent. It's kind of a faceless opponent, and that's how he'll approach it, and that's how we'll all approach it. We'll just know that in our guts deep down that we want this one a little bit more than everyone else, just because it's the last game of the year and we want to set a good tone, and it's our rival.
Thank you.
Joe, even besides, momentum carrying into the off season, does a win in the Apple Cup make up for maybe not reaching some of your goals, like a bowl game and things like that?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously we had bigger goals going into the season, but the past is the past at this point. We can't worry about that. But all we can do is focus on getting a win this week, and that's what we're going to try to do. I mean, it won't make up for anything, but it'll get our goal complete for this week.
Maybe one more question for Joe Dahl.
Oh, you mean outsider in? Oh, Joe, I was just wondering, have you still not given up the sack this year?
No, I gave up one last game actually. So yeah. So that was definitely one of the goals I want to have this year, but it's too bad I didn't get it completed.
That's a heck of an accomplishment for you guys passed.